glass of water.
Well, this is just water anyway,
Yes.
as well, same thing.
Water is fine, but you know, a tea with a cloudy milk, something like that, it's fine too. So I have a few interesting questions from a composer to another one, which is kind of different because you are used to make a lot of interviews. I know not everything about you, but I know a lot, of course, because I take all details and watching on YouTube, and there are a lot of very interesting things. So, and this time it's quite a bit different because it's not a journalist talking to a composer. It's more like a composer talking with a composer. So, you know,
Yeah.
And this is for Ucmf, you know, now that you are a member of prestige, as we say in French, and we are very honored to have you in this.
So am I. So am I.
Really, because, you know, you are in the team with Lalo Schifrin, Howard Shore, and Trevor Jones, and with so many great composers. And it's really important, especially for young composers, because it's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is the future, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning my questions. It's not too many, don't worry, but I'm more interested by what I'm hearing from you than what I'm saying, in fact. So the thing is, question number one.
Yes.
So, I'm reading because I wrote all the things. I hope that you will understand with my famous French accent. You know, it's like Maurice Chevalier. Remember this? Thanks for little girls with the real typical French accent. Do you speak some French? Or?
Oh no, I'm terrible at French. I mean, French is so badly taught in English schools, so I'm ashamed to say I'm terrible at French. My 3 daughters are all really good at French because they're all linguists because they're all half Italian. So they all speak Italian and English, so therefore they can speak French and they can speak Spanish, and I feel, and I'm sort of locked out of it all. I wish I did.
Yes, but everything is new now because you are a member of the Ucmf, so it's a French thing. So of course you need to. I'm teaching you some bad words, so I will not tell you what it means. So let's go for number one. So all famous composers have oversized studios, often too big. You are the living proof that with just a piano in the corner of a room, a green plant, and a little more than a cassette tape recorder Philips, we can make sumptuous music for great movies and even win Oscars. So we absolutely want to know your secret, and we want to know if you are related to Harry Potter.
If I'm related to Harry Potter, okay. Well, you know, okay, so firstly, Harry Potter, because obviously that's the most important part of the question. I'm not related, but I feel I should be included within his larger family group because of the love for Harry Potter books, particularly the books and the films, but particularly the books that my daughters have, who have read them all and know them all, and they still read them even though they're in their 20s. But because they're so important to them. So I feel very close to Harry Potter, even though I can't claim to be a blood relation. So that's that bit of the question. In terms of yes, having such a simple studio setup, which I really do. I think for me, it all starts with the musical idea. And the musical idea, for me, I have to be able to write it down. So I have to be able to notate it, and it starts with manuscript, pencil, you know, manuscript paper and pencil, and it's so I don't have, you know, and the piano. The piano is really my
it's your thing.
It's my companion. Well, what did you say?
It's your thing. The piano is just your part of yourself.
It's my thing. It's my thing. Yes, it's the thing that helps me to write. I can write without it. I can quite happily, you know, if there isn't a piano around, you know, I'm quite happy to compose without it. But it's the friend that I have with me when I sit down to write. And I've never really wanted anything else. And so it's that very simple, very pure line of composition. And I think, I mean, it's also very classical. It's deeply classical, and which is the way, you know, I learned. I sometimes think, you know, if I was starting out now, you know, I would definitely go and do a master's after having been to university and read music and everything. And, you know, I would go and do a master's in film composition somewhere like, I don't know, one of these good places, like, you know, like the Royal College of Music, for example, or there must be programs in Paris and, you know, like LA. I'd probably go and do that now. But when I was starting out, that didn't exist. Yeah. But were I to do that, I would learn a completely different way of writing music to film. And instead, because of, you know, when I arrived on the scene and when I decided what I wanted to do, and the fact that I couldn't study it, there's nowhere to study it. I just had to make my own way and find my own way into it. It's led me down a very sort of distinctive path, and I'm lucky enough that you know, I work with people who do demos for me, and so I work with programmers, which, because I obviously have to program my ideas for directors, you know, for demos and things. And so I just work with somebody else, and I know what I want, and I know how to, you know, and if it's something, you know, if it's something synthesized or electronic, I know how to ask for it, if you know what I mean. I know how to ask for the sound that I want, but it's not something that I've ever technically embraced myself. Whereas if I was to start now, I would have to, because there wouldn't be the budgets, you know, there wouldn't be the money available for me to ask someone else to do it if I was starting out now, because I would have to do everything. Mm-hmm. So I feel I've been very lucky, and I'm still in this privileged position that I can get away with not having to do that. That's one thing. The other thing is, I think, you know, it's served me really well, not being, you know, not writing or using, you know, synthesizers, other means, and I think that has something to do with the way that my voice, the way I want to write. I don't base it on other sounds or on other, you know, I don't know. I think I come from a very, I think it comes from a very classical, but also notated source. I think that's why, you know, every composer, whoever they are, young, old, starting out, or, you know, they all have to find their own way, which is, you know, what they feel is what they like doing, basically. What, you know, what speaks the music that so they can find their own voice, and this just happens to be my voice. So, but you're right. It shows that it can be done. And I mean, I'm fully aware that it's very rare that people write like that now, but there's no reason why you can't.
Yes, but it's so charming.
Thank you. No, but actually I've talked to quite a few students who said to me, you know what, because I do a bit of mentoring from time to time with students, and people have said, you know what, I'm gonna leave all my machines behind, and I'm going to try and go back, and I'm just going to sit and I'm going to write at my piano. And they found that's a really amazing discipline to help their musical ideas, to do that. Because if not, you've got all this other stuff that you can play with the whole time. And you know, maybe that can be a way of preventing the musical structure, the musical idea from developing more than it does. You know?
I think we were talking with a great friend of me who passed away a few years ago, Francis Lay, and that you knew, I can imagine. And Francis was very well known because of his melodies, and he began for writing songs for Edith Piaf in the 50s, and he has been very well known with A Man and a Woman, Love Story, etc. So it was a kind of 32 bars songs, you know, and it was there were a place for music at this time in the 70s, 80s, because I think that the cinema was slower than now. And this is, today, it changed a lot, because melodies is something, sometimes it looks kind of old-fashioned for certain directors. They don't like melodies. But in fact, I think that melodies, it's just, you know, with your melodies, or John Williams, or Jerry Goldsmith, or even Lalo Schifrin, it's in being able of catching the spirit of a movie just in four bars or 8 bars. This is really a great talent, I think. And it's not always because you say, okay, a good music, you can whistle the music at the end of the movie, you know, we are used to hear this. But to me, I think the real talent is just with simple things. And of course, piano is a king of orchestration. And being able of this, to me, it's really amazing, because the technical things, it's very interesting. You know, I have here a lot of synthesizers, etc. It's great, but the thing is, it's not only about technology. Technology is just here to help the composer.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I also think that, you know, the added, what a melody can add to a film is huge. Or even if it's, you know, if it's TV and it's the front, the title track at the beginning, you know, if you think of something like, I don't know, like Succession or something like that, these, you know, having a strong identity and a melody, it just adds something huge. And also, you know, I think this is what you were saying, but you know, to be able to trace some kind of a melody throughout a film subtly, so that you don't, it's not there in its full form at the beginning, but then it is there at the end of the film. It has an enormous emotional dividend for the audience, and they may not notice it, they may not realize what it is, but it does, but because it's had this sort of time to build emotional layers. And you know, if you don't have melodies, you don't have that.
I agree. And so my second question is going, of course, to the piano. This is your friend forever. And the piano occupies a central place in your work, of course. And my question is, were you born with a piano waiting for you in your bedroom when you left the maternity ward? Or how did it happen? When did you begin to play piano?
Oh gosh, well, I started playing. Well, you know, I didn't start till quite late. I think I started when I was 8, which is, you know, lots of people start children much younger now. But I am one of 5 children, and I was the last.
Oh, okay.
My mother was really musical, but she didn't have any. She'd never had any music lessons, but she was passionate about music. And with each of her children, she got them to have piano lessons. And the piano sat downstairs, and each one of us had a go at it. And it was only when it got to me that, and I loved the piano so much, I just gobbled it up and I went through my lessons, and I made fast progress on it. While my older sister thought, right, I'm not going to do this anymore. She's going to overtake me. And so, yeah, I mean, I discovered very quickly that music was my thing. And But really, you know, I was already 8, and I think that's, although I do understand that the piano is a difficult instrument for little hands to coordinate, you know, and it's not the easiest instrument to, you know, to learn when you're tiny. And even though it's good to sort of get a head start and stuff, it's sometimes I wonder if, you know, it's not easier just to, you know, to pick up a violin, I don't know, at the age of 6 or something. The other thing is there's no hurry. You know, I think I knew, well, I knew by the time I was 15, I didn't want to, I wasn't going to be a performer. I wanted to write. So I'd made that, I'd already made that decision that I didn't want to perform. Although I love the piano very much. And so it then became my writing friend.
Yes, and I've read that you began to write music seriously at the age of 14 something, right?
Yeah, I did. When I say seriously for a 14-year-old, you know, if I look back at what I was doing, but you know, I was lucky. I went to a school. I mean, I was incredibly lucky where there was where there was a teacher when I was 15. This was, who was interested in my compositions and would look at them and say, "That's interesting. Have you thought of, you know, making that, developing that part? Because it's all about, can you develop this? Can you develop that? Or why did you do that? Have you, you know, that having someone who's you know, able to help you when you're starting out to be creative is an amazing thing." So I was very lucky. That, and the fact that I had one of my older sisters had a boyfriend. So he would have been in his early 20s, who was a composer called Benedict Mason, who actually lives in France now. A wonderful composer he is. And but you know, and he was curious about me being musical too, because you know he was an extremely good composer already, and I think it was knowing him a bit made me think, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do with my music. Not that, but you know, but he's a classical composer, straight classical. When I say he writes concert music, and I went off into film, sort of. And I mean, I got intoxicated by writing music for film when I was in my early 20s. And so very much made that my thing, even though I do much more concert music now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and concerning again the piano, are you still playing yourself the piano in your scores, and or do you conduct your scores by yourself too?
I don't conduct. No, I don't. I've always had the view that it's very important to listen, to be able to listen in the actual recording booth, what's going on. Often the conductor can't actually hear the whole orchestra. I don't know, do you conduct?
Sometimes, but you know, there is 2 ways of conducting. You can conduct Mahler and you can conduct your music, which is something completely different. Yes. So, but in fact, it's very good to have a fresh ear when you are inside the mix room, you know. So I think that's better to give the key to a real conductor, which
absolutely, yeah. And the other thing is that for, I would say, 95% of all the music that I've ever done for films so far, we haven't used click track. So that means that,
of course.
You need a really good conductor to make sure.
He can move beside between the click.
Absolutely, doing it, you know, and sort of doing it on. So it's a real skill, and I don't want to be a conductor who, you know, they're really fine players, fantastic musicians. I don't want them to think she's not a real conductor because because it wouldn't be like I was conducting everything. As you say, it's not. I'm a composer, so I don't need to be a conductor as well. But so I don't. And I mean, that's fine. Also, the same thing is I don't play. I'm happy to. I record my own piano music, you know, for my own projects, for my albums and stuff.
Yes,
But,
we're talking later with this,
okay.
with your album.
Okay.
So you write a lot of works played in concert, not only for cinema, like Celebration for 20 brass instruments, Birds for choir and piano, The Lamplighter for choir and piano. You like choirs. Look at the Stars for choir and piano, etc., etc.
Well, I did a
All
lot.
this for choir and piano. So you like choir and piano. It is amazing. So I think it's wonderful of writing music for concert, live music, because it's so sad when you are writing, you know, a score, it's going to be recording in, I don't know, Abbey Road or Hair Studio or anywhere. And after you put the scores just on a library, and that's all, that's finished. But playing this music in concerts, that's great. So yes, I was saying that you write a lot of works for played in concerts, which any composer working for the image should do, to me, I think. There you are quiet, no director or producer to bother you, of course, and the piano is still very present. And can you tell a little bit more about this and the way of writing the music for concerts? Is it a different way of working?
I love writing for the concert hall and for, you know, opera, oratorio, choir. And the reason is, the reason is I love writing for the voice and setting text. And that's something that you can't really do hugely a lot of in film. Also, there's nothing like the live performance and sort of sitting in an auditorium and seeing the, you know, the lights go down and seeing singers and actors coming out and singing. I mean, it's the most incredible thing. And, you know, and there, you know, music is the primary thing then. It's not, you're not, you still have a collaboration. You have a collaboration with a librettist and I love those collaborations, and they're real equal collaborations. You know, whereas in film, if I compare that with, you know, I mean, obviously there are fantastic experiences in film, but there can be experiences in film when it's just, you're working with a director who says, no, I don't like that, do it like this. And then you do it like that. And they say, no, I don't like that, do it differently again, you know, and it can be, as every film composer knows, hugely frustrating because you can be very compromised by what you want to do. And the freedom, you know, to write concert works is good. You know, is what I love. And also, you know, I think it comes with, you know, being older and, you know, thinking about what it is that I really, really want to do and what I want to express, and having space and the opportunity to get commissions to do that is fantastic. That's not to say that I don't love and continue to be really curious always about the alchemy that happens when you put music on film. And, you know, I love working in film. So it's not something that I sort of won't do in favor of concert music, but it's just that concert music is, you know, I think it's good for any composer to mix it up and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you know, try different things. I mean, that's what I started doing about 20 years ago. Was it about 20 years ago? I started thinking, I would like to write an opera. And then I thought, I'd like to write a musical. And then I thought, and so I've done lots of different, gone down lots of different avenues because of that, of that wish to sort of push myself out of my comfort zone.
But it's hard in today's age because there are a lot of underscoring in movies, as you know, so pads, etc. So, and they made this experiment some years ago in Ghent for bringing a kind of typical electronic scores to symphonic. And I remember I was thinking, and I know that Dirk Brosset, but you know, I imagine, was not really happy with this, because it's, you know, even if it works with the movie, with the pads and the synthesizers, etc., which is fine, but for playing this in concert, like drones, or, you know, it's, the thing is that first you are lucky to be a pianist, because first you can play by yourself your music, because a lot of composers are not able to play. So, which is very important, and you are writing music which exists by itself. So you can go in the hall and you sit, as you say, light off, and you are listening to real music, which means something. And as you are very close to nature, I know we will talk about this later. So when you are writing music, there is a sense of this, you know, in the feeling that you can express. I'm feeling this when I am listening to your music, and which is really great. And I remember when I played for you at 2 months ago, and it was such a joy for me to play your music, because it's very very melodical, great melodies and harmonies, and we like this. And I think that Alan Silvestri was saying that he was confident in the thing that maybe the melody will be back in the business. You see what I mean? Yeah. So we are praying, but so it's really great. So you started out working for British TV, which is, of course, one of the best in the world. As we know, the BBC TV is incredible. Yep. And your first movie was, I'm always very careful with the dates, because, you know, there are a lot of journalists say, you did this in this time, and so it's never the right date. So, but it seems that it was in 1982, the experience preferred, but not essential.
Yes.
So you began to work a lot of things for TV, and after you move to the cinema, and later in the Hollywood jungle, of course. So how was it? So, you know, the progression.
How was it?
The progression from TV to cinema and big things, the blockbusters, etc.
I mean, yes, exactly. I mean, I think I was very ambitious. Well, not ambitious. I was really determined that, you know, that I wanted to be a film composer, and so I stuck through my 20s when, you know, I would get you know, a BBC film or something like that, like, you know, Experience Preferred but Not Essential was a single film made for a different television company, Channel 4, but they were really good quality. They were really, really beautifully made films. And in those days, there wasn't nearly as much content, films being made. And so, you know, everybody watched these films in the country. You know, when they came out, they were, and, you know, a wonderful film producer called David Putnam gave me my first job on that. And so I was lucky. After that, I'd had one broadcast film, you know, on television, so I could get an agent. So I got an agent, but the agent never called me, hardly ever, you know. So
as usual.
Oh no, I know. It's just like so painful. It was so difficult, and I was so.
It is a problem number one. Young composers, they don't realize. They say, we say to them, the agent is just working for the business, for making money. So it's very simple. He's not finding the job.
No. Well, no, exactly. No, but but you need an agent, and so, to be honest, my 20s were they were a series of, you know, I had these pearls of jobs, but perhaps they came every 18 months, and they were really good jobs. There was I worked on a Mike Leigh film, again for television. And then I worked on, I can't remember, I mean, a series of really well-made television films. And at that time, I was so impatient to do movies, to do big films. And I remember someone saying to me, you know, it might not be the worst thing in the world that you're starting on these smaller orchestral projects, yes, because you know, don't put your roots down. You know, learn your craft. And I was like, I mean, I know it already. Anyway, it served me very well, because by the time I did go to LA, when I was 30 when I got my first job out there, and it was a studio film, and I went out there and I spent 3 months out there writing it. I had a massive orchestra, and I mean, it was huge. And by then I had so much experience in, you know, in writing for picture, but also orchestrating, that I orchestrated obviously there was time then, not that there isn't now, but I orchestrated absolutely everything in it, and it was fantastic. You know, I had a month to orchestrate the score. You know, so I, you know, and I wouldn't have been able to do that in my early 20s. So that was really, yeah. And I was lucky with my breaks. I was lucky. I worked with some, you know, I worked with Jim Henson. I don't know, you know who I mean, who created Sesame Street, and he's just really wonderful. And his company made a series of children's television films on Grimm's fairy tales with John Hurt, called The Storyteller. And lots of different directors, really interesting directors.
With Big Bird?
Sorry?
Big Bird?
No, no, that was not with Big Bird. No, this was with John Hurt.
Ah, okay.
He played this Storyteller by the fire. But anyway, the point is that there were, I think they made about 18 altogether. And, you know, I probably worked with about 9 different directors. And they were all working, very well-known directors, who all took me on to do a lot of them employed me afterwards to do films with them. So I got busier and busier until I felt I was launched and started working in LA. And then I didn't do any television for years.
You were living in LA at this time?
I didn't. No, what I used to do was I used to go and stay in LA when I was doing a film. So for the first film which I did out there, which was called Used People, I spent 3 months living in a friend's room, sort of, that they rented to me. And nice. Yeah, and so that I've done that for years. I decided when, you know, then of course, I mean, that was when I was 30. When I was 34, I had my first child. I had 3 girls. And so when I was 34, 36 and 38, and I continued to go out to LA or New York, if I was doing a film from New York, and be there while I wrote, often for shorter periods, and I'd take the girls with me. But then the last time I did it was when my middle child was 6 months old, and I was in LA, and I had a really awful experience there. And so someone broke into the house that I was renting. I was renting this really small house in the valley, and a guy broke into the house. And when I wasn't there, the children weren't there, and he was looking for drugs or something, and he ended up at a small pool in the back, and he died. He unfortunately died in the pool, and it was so traumatic. After that, I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm going to bring the children back anymore. I didn't want to live in LA. It didn't. It wasn't for me. You know, I love England. I love. You know, I love the country, and you know, and I wasn't going to make my life in LA. And so I decided that I didn't mind how many times I needed to get on a plane to go and be with directors and spend time with them. You know. And usually it was never more than about 4 or 5 days, but I would write in London, or London, or in the UK. So yeah, that's
it's very difficult, you know. In France, Alexandre Desplat, for example, is always moving. He's going, you know, taking the plane, but he didn't want to live in LA, because in fact, LA is very fine when you are going just like that for 1, 2, 3 weeks, that's fine. You are discovering at the beginning, it's all new, incredible things. But living here, especially when you are European, in England or even in France, it's something which is so different. And maybe you can go when you are young, but in your case with 3 children, I can't imagine, because we know how difficult it is.
It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And I have to say, I think, you know, the way technology has, you know, has changed over the years, it makes it much easier now, much easier for composers to stay where they want to be. And I mean, and for example, during the pandemic, quite extraordinary what you can do, you know, that we could never have done, you know, even 5 years ago.
Yes.
5, 6, 7 years ago, you could never have done the kind of, you know, working completely, you know, I mean, the meetings, you know, Evercast meetings with, you know, lots of people and the film running and everything, and not meeting a director, but just doing everything through sort of Zoom calls. Extraordinary that you can do that now.
Yes, it's changed a lot, because I remember very well, because we are quite the same, from the same age, we are very close. So, and you remember when it was beginning of computers, when it was just completely new, with the first Pro Tools, with 2 digital tracks, after 4 tracks and 8 tracks, and yes. So it was just the beginning, and computers was always breaking down. It was terrible to work in this, but it was great because it was new.
Yeah.
And of course now it's, but I think that meeting people is always very important.
I agree. I mean, you know, you can't really, I mean, a huge part of a composer's job is to understand, really understand what the director is like, and you know, we use our intuition for that, and if we can't meet them, you know, there's a whole part of that missing. Even, you know, I have done, you know, quite a few projects without meeting directors, and it's harder, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of yeah, it's worth traveling to be with them, you know. I mean, there are things that you pick up that you wouldn't pick up just like this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so in 1996, if I'm right, but I think 1996, the consecration comes with, of course, your Oscar for Emma. You were the first woman ever to get this Oscar. Yes. So congratulations, of course. And so it gives a way to a new approach, especially in today's age, where we are taking care more and more about women in this business, which is which makes sense, because we don't care that it's a woman or a man. We just want a good music. It's very simple.
Yes.
So this is a thing. So you got this Oscar, which is something absolutely amazing. It's like the Himalaya of film music, I think. And I have a very funny story about this, because I remember I was talking with Gabriel Yared, and Gabriel told me that after his Oscar for The English Patient, everybody called him to make the same kind of films, of course.
Yes.
So he was completely, he was very sad about this, and he just stayed in New York for a few months, and after he came back to France, you know, like you, in fact. And Maurice Jarre, when he got Oscars, he said, because he had a good humor. I think maybe you met Maurice, and he was saying that people were calling him from music for snow or music for sand.
Oh, that's so funny. Yes.
So, and so this is the thing, you know, people always want to put you in a category, you know, okay, she's doing this, she's playing piano with strings, that's fine, doing, or Gabriel, you know, and so, and Maurice with timpanis and all this stuff. So, and people don't think that, yes, I am able to make different things. I am a composer, I'm not a composer for this or for this. So, and how was it after your Oscar? It was all the doors were open, and so how did you?
Yeah. I think it opened doors for me hugely, and I mean it's like if suddenly, or you know, I was really trusted to be given really big films. So because I had this accreditation, as it were.
Yes,
you know,
you have your car.
What? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like so. You know, oh, she must be okay. She must be. You know,
even if she's a woman, she can do things.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. We can trust her with, because I think there's a lot of you know, if you haven't seen women composers out there, you think, well, can they be trusted? You know, is she going to be able to deliver? What do we do? There's a big budget for music on this film. You know, can we trust? Can we? Is she going to succeed? And because of the Oscar, I think you know, it was like, yeah, of course. Then if she's won an Oscar, then she must be fine. You know, so I think you know, I had that, and that was a gift to me. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and you know, but I do think it's a lottery. You know, I mean, I know it's when people win, but I, you know, it's not a lottery so much, but I do feel very lucky. You know?
But it was because maybe you have a style, and I think this is the most difficult thing is having a style. When people say, "Oh, she sounds like Rachel Portman," she's not sounding like everyone else. So you have a sound by yourself, and it is why people are looking. Because I have a friend for the artist, you know, Ludovic, who got everything for the artist, which was something unexpected, in fact, because he's doing, you know, music like slapstick, and especially for a French guy, because Americans are very good to make this kind of music. So you are here and you have the Weinstein thing, and everybody, okay, you got everything. They say, oh, okay, I have the BAFTA, the Oscar, the César, the thing, which is great for him. I told him, I said, you will see, you will get the Oscar. And so after this, the problem is that when you are doing music which is for a certain style of movies, like The Artist, for example, which is very special thing, there are not so many movies
like that,
which needs this kind of music. And it's very hard, I think, after, because when you are just there, you know, you are the top during one moment, and you are nominated with John Williams, with Tom Newman, with you are in the middle of the thing. You say, what I'm doing here? And so, and after, it's really difficult, in fact, because it depends on the movie. You are so linked to the
you're very linked to the film. Yeah, you really are.
So 2000 is a great year for you, of course, with Chocolat or Chocolat, I don't know how you say, but Chocolat, a great movie, and with Johnny Depp and Juliette Binoche, of course, and also The Legend of Bagger Vance, yes. And one of the finest golf films, maybe the best one. I'm not talking about Caddyshack, which is something just for fun, but it was really an amazing movie. And I told you that I'm dying about golf. And,
yes.
Yes. So it was by Robert Redford, of course. What a name. So the music perfectly captures the mood and dramaturgy of this really special game. So I read that you like Fats Waller too, you know, because there are some jazz themes inside.
Yeah, there are a couple of jazz themes in there.
And so how did you land in this movie with Robert Redford. And did you play golf after this or not?
No, I didn't play golf. I thought it would make my father so happy because he was a great golfer. He was. So he was very pleased that I was.
I can imagine. Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I know that. I know that Robert Redford. He'd asked me on a previous film, and I hadn't been free, or he had been considering, and on a previous film, that I do the score. And then the Bag of Ants came up, and he asked me to go and meet him where they were shooting. And so it's funny. It's a funny story. I think it's funny. I went over, and it was sort of south of New York somewhere, but it was 2 planes. It was like I had to fly to New York and I had to take another plane down. And it was a really, really long day, really long flight. And I got there and I was met by the unit driver, and I was wearing, I was like wearing my sort of airplane clothes, like really half asleep. And I had this horrible headache from being on the plane all that time. And the guy said, "Oh, Bob wants to meet you now." And I thought, "Oh no, oh dear." So he drove me to the set, and I had to go and meet Redford straight away. And it was all like, with the time difference, it was really late. And anyway, I went in and we had a chat and about the film and what I thought of the script, a few things. And then he said, "Right, we're going to go out to the set now," because it was a night shoot. So I had this feeling from him. I had a feeling from him then that he was like, "I'm not going to interview you anymore. I've already made up my mind that I want you to do it. I just had to meet you." And then so he said, come along, let's go on the set. And the set was an outdoor set, and Matt Damon was putting, I think it was, in this beautiful night shot. And it went on all night until it got light in the morning, at which point I'd been up for days, or literally, so it's such a long time. But it was so wonderful. And honestly, Redford was so generous with his time and so friendly and such a wonderful man and a great director, great in that he gave me all the time I needed to talk me through a scene and why it was like that and everything. So that's how I ended up doing it. So, yeah. So by the time I got to the hotel that I was staying in after my flight, I'd already had the interview, I'd already got the job, and I hadn't even, put, anything, I hadn't even changed yet from the flight or anything. So it's quite funny.
So it was a really good experience because it's a movie with characters, it's a really soulful thing, and not only because about golf, but just the story, and with great actors, of course.
Yeah, yes.
It's like a piece of chocolate, if I can say this, for doing this kind of thing. So, and congrats it's even better when you are lucky enough to play the
yes.
film, like I did for you.
You played so brilliantly. You played so beautifully.
No, thank you. But it's easy because it's like a chocolate, for a piano player. When you have this thing to play, and you have a lot of room to interpret. And so in French, we say, this is a French expression, we say you have du grain à moudre, which means that you have something to make a new thing, you see.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know if I'm clear, but well. So it seems that you are a great romantic, and your music is imbued, yes, with a great fineness, delicacy, with the often fullness of the piano, of course, and the strings. Would you be okay to score a film like Transformers or a Marvel, for example?
Yeah, I'm not really interested in, well, I'm not that interested. I'm not interested in action films. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like to think that, you know, I like films that I like to go and see, films that I like to watch are the kind of films that I want to be writing the music for. That seems to be natural. So I think everyone, to a certain extent, you know, I like human dramas, basically. And yeah, I think that's what, you know, and I like period films, and I like I like quirky comedies too, things that are a bit different. I'm not interested in doing you know, huge blockbusters that don't have a lot of individuality, if you know what I mean. That are sort of like in a, so yeah. Whilst I mean, it would be fun, but it's not something that I yearn to do.
Yes, and it's I remember this story with Gabriel. What you have heard about this about the film Troy, of course,
Oh, yeah.
which was not a today's story, of course, but Gabriel did a wonderful score for Troy, and they made, you know, a screening, and some people wrote, oh, maybe the music is not as well, okay, so they changed the composer for James Horner, and this is such a pressure for a composer, especially in this business. Even today, it's worse, of course, because it's about money, about time, and they are changing things, the editing, even at the very last minute. So it's completely crazy. When you are maybe after 40 or 50 years old, seriously, when you did a lot of things in your career, sometimes it must be hard, you know.
Yeah.
To
Well,
go.
yes. Yeah. You know, no, I think so. I mean, you have to be. One of the hardest things to reconcile is that, you know, as you know, talking about Gabrielle, you know, when you put your heart and soul into something, and then it's rejected,
Exactly.
you've offered something of yourself.
Yes.
And
your heart, your soul.
Exactly, it's really, really hard. And you know, and if you didn't, if you didn't care quite so much and you just wrote any old way, you wouldn't write music like Gabrielle's. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons he's so great. And but that's the risk. That's the big risk of film. And films are they're very stressful. You know, the rewards are huge.
Yes.
but the downsides and the amount the difficulties are huge. It's a very it's a really stressful job, I think. And it's interesting because I think now that people are beginning to talk about how important it is for, you know, people studying film music to also have some kind of awareness of the fact that it is going to be stressful, and, you know, to build up their resilience and to have ways of you know, keeping things in perspective when you know, if they don't have a good day.
Are you teaching film music?
No, I know I'm not teaching. No.
Or master class maybe, or things like that?
Yeah, I do the odd. I do occasionally. I do a bit of mentoring. Which when I say mentoring, it's sort of a bit like it's yeah. I've been doing it for the Royal College of Music. So maybe one student or possibly two students a year. Just you know, they show me their work and we talk about it and talk about the, you know, well, I mean, it's sort of, yeah, it's not really teaching. I would put, apart from anything else, I don't have time. So certainly not these days at the moment to teach. But I am, you know, I'm interested to help, you know, where I can in a limited way, you know, and, you know, with women composers as well. You know, that's another thing that I enjoy. You know, and I'm interested in, you know, what's coming what in new young, you know, composers and what they're bringing, you know. So it's, yeah, it's good.
So I know you know that I don't know if you have been to the Krakow Film Festival.
I'd like to. I have been asked, but I haven't.
I'm sure that you will go and you would love this, because the director is Robert Piasowski. He's a great man, and he talked to me about you some years ago. I remember very well, and I went twice, and they had this wonderful how can you? It was a 1 week master class in the Penderecki place, which is just 200 kilometers from Krakow, just in the nature. It was very close to Mr. Penderecki's home, just maybe it's maybe 100 meters from this place, and with all these young composers who were coming from all over the world, film music composers, and it will be a perfect place for you. I'm sure that you will enjoy this very much, and it's very important for young composers, because a lot of them, maybe sometimes they think that they are able to do everything and with technology, but in fact they need very good advices. Not teaching during years, but just a few advices of what great composer like you, your experience, and all these things. And it's very important because it's a hard job, of course, we all know this, and especially in today's age. And cinema is moving a little bit to television because of Netflix, series, etc. And so people need music, of course, but it's a little bit changing. I don't know if you have this feeling too, but
yes.
Would you be interested in scoring a series for Netflix, for example?
Definitely. I definitely have. Yeah, and I have been asked, and there've been sort of schedule conflicts, or I haven't felt it's the right project for me. But yes. I mean, my only reticence, sort of, is that which I don't really have, but is that I like to write everything and not have somebody working with me who's writing underneath me like a ghostwriter. And I know that that's the only way possible to do sort of big series. But I used to be worried about that. I'm not worried about that now, but I used to think, you know, I don't want to be managing other people writing and writing, but also I think it's just wanting to control everything myself and wanting to have it all of my voice. But you know, so it's a very different thing. I think I've, you know, it's quite a purist way to look at things. And I don't think I need to be so purist about it, and that it's, you know, it's fine to work with other composers.
You went from Oliver Twist by Polanski,
yes,
whose success is closely linked to your music, to The Duchess, a typical period film telling the life of Georgiana Spencer, future Duchess of Devonshire, to whom actress Keira Knightley, right? Yes.
Keira Knightley, yeah.
Lends her features. So you have a very, very wide musical landscape. Would you be interested in composing an electronic score in the future?
Oh, electronic. Well,
with piano, of course, with piano.
Yes. No, I would. I absolutely would. I would never say no to anything. You know, if it was
You're ready to everything, in fact.
No. I mean, what I mean is, if somebody said, if somebody came to me and they said, Rachel, we really, really want you, but we want it to be all electronic, that's fine. I mean, I've often used electronic elements quite heavily in scores. So it's not something that I would be averse to doing at all. In fact, it would be great. I mean, it's just that I don't naturally go there, but there's no reason that it couldn't be really fun, and I'm always up for a challenge.
Yes, because you will be moving from your comfort zone somewhere. You see, with of course orchestral, strings, piano, etc., and you are moving to something which is completely new. And I'm sure that you are how you say adventure woman. You see, and you are ready to all experiences. And I would love to listen to a score like this from you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, the thing, you know, if I look back at when I worked with Jonathan Demme on Beloved, and he said to me, Rachel, I'd love you to do the score for Beloved, but if you do, but before I hire you to do it, can you promise me that you won't use any Western instruments at all? And everything's got to come from Africa in some shape or form. And I said, brilliant. Absolutely. Of course. You know, so it's fun.
Oh, that's fine. So, and there is everything in one word about you, I think, and this word is elegance, of course.
Thank you.
And this is something you can't learn. I'm sorry, but elegance is something you have it, or not, you know. And did you think about this career when you started music? Was cinema very present? And which composers, of course, do you like from the past, of course, and even today?
Oh, well, composers, I mean, I don't really understand the question. I can't remember. I mean, when I was little, I wasn't thinking, gosh, I want to get in, I want to, you know, write music. Cinema and films weren't part of my childhood or growing up, really.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered cinema and films.
What kind of movies were you watching?
When
all movies or movies?
When I was little.
Yes.
I hardly saw anything. I mean, we didn't watch much TV. You know, I remember, God, I think we went to the local cinema to see The Sound of Music when I was very small.
The Sound of Music.
Yeah, and you know, I never thought about music for film until I started to write it. Never occurred to me. And you know, of scores I like. I mean, I like Elmer Bernstein. I think he was wonderful. I think Jerry Goldsmith was really clever.
Yes.
I like, gosh, I mean, John Williams' score for Schindler's List, I think, is wonderful. I think John Williams is very, very just brilliant.
Yes.
I think Thomas Newman's really interesting. I like his music a lot.
And he never got any Oscars, which is I can't understand.
Extraordinary.
Never. He has been nominated many times, but he never get it.
He will. He'll get. They'll give him a. If he doesn't win one, he'll be given a.
Yes.
He'll be given a lifetime achievement, won't he?
Ennio Morricone didn't got any Oscar, so you have a Life Achievement Award, Oscar, but so it's very strange.
Extraordinary. I know, extraordinary. Yeah.
So and so you wrote among others an opera for the Little Prince. And can you tell a little bit about this?
Oh yeah. I wanted to write an opera that you could take a child to, that wouldn't put them off an opera, and I spent 2 years doing it, and it's. I mean, I know it's the most beloved book in France, and so it was a real honor to be allowed to do it, and we jolly nearly didn't get the rights. And no, but I love doing that. It's performed a lot, and so it's alive and it has a life, which is fantastic. Sadly, not in France. But hopefully one day it will be.
Love to.
Yeah.
You're working this way. You know, now you are a member of the Ucmf, so everything is possible. So you have collaborated with very important directors, of course, like Roman Polanski, Jonathan Demme, Robert Redford, Robert Benton, Gary Marshall, Alan Parker. And I love Alan Parker, and especially because he worked with my great friend, Trevor Jones. Maybe you know Trevor.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I'm
very close friend, amazing. And when he did Mississippi Burning, which is amazing movie, and the score is gorgeous, and Trevor is a magnificent person. And so do you think that, and I know your response, but I want to ask you, not for me, but for people who are watching this video. So do you think that a composer should have a special relationship with the director, a kind of mutual, yes, understanding that would give him the best of himself?
I think, oh gosh, it's every single film, you know, if you're working on a different, you work with a, where you are working with a director for the first time, it's a new relationship. And I mean, those relationships are so important.
Yes.
You know, and obviously I've worked with some directors quite a few times, and then others maybe only once. But it's great when you work with directors again, because you understand what it is that they're trying to say, and there's a kind of shorthand, you know. But yeah, no. But then I do understand when directors want to work with a composer, a different composer. I think it's important that different films that they make can have very different colors. Although, you know, some directors just stay with one composer and they trust them and everything they do, and you know, that's great too. It's very, very important relationship is all I can say. And you know, understanding the sensibility of the director is incredibly important. And you know, and it comes down to a lot of trust as well. This whole thing of trust, you know, I really trust this person, because, yes, you know, in many ways, I think this is interesting. You know, when I started out, you didn't have to demo all your ideas. And so it was a bit of a mystery what the composer was going to, you know, what was going to end up when you ended up at the recording, on the recording stage with the orchestra. The music was going to be a surprise, or to a certain degree, the composer probably would have played you the themes on the piano, but you wouldn't have had a fully realized demo. Now, nobody, you know, dips a toe in the water without knowing the temperature of the water, knowing everything. I mean, it's like, you know, you score a big movie now, and, you know, or any movie, and the director and the producers know exactly what they're going to get. And they often prefer or get very attached to the mock-ups, you know, and then they hear it differently on a live orchestra. They say, hey, hang on a minute, it doesn't sound the same. And you say, well, no, it doesn't, because these are real instruments now playing live. They're real live players. So, yeah, so this whole thing has shifted over, you know, many years, what, 40 years, something like that, you know, to music for film is not a mystery in the way that it used to be. You know, it used to be that the composer was an expert in their field, and you trusted them to do what they did because they knew what they were doing. I mean, I'm generalizing, of course. And now it's like, well, we trust you, but we trust you to do. You got to be trusted on so many different levels, and go through so many different hoops that you know. And you've got to show everything, show all the cards, show absolutely everything. You know, and everyone's got to sign off on it and say, yeah, we're all happy. All the producers as well as the director. It's extraordinary. Mm-hmm. It depends. I mean, if you're working on a film like Oliver Twist with Polanski, he was like, well, firstly, he would make up his own mind about whether everything was fine, and if he said it was fine, it would be fine. There's no producer sort of whose voice has to be listened to as well, if you know what I mean. Or not in the same sense with him, I didn't feel. But also, Polanski was extremely comfortable working with composers and, you know, with classical music. Because I remember saying to him, well, do you want to know how I'm going to orchestrate everything? He said, no, you know what you're doing. You know, you know, I know that you know I completely trust you. I know what you know, and that's because he understands music and he's not afraid of it.
Yes, he loves music. That's true.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the end of the interview, but I have two things very important for you. So it's about nature, of course.
Yes.
Nature occupies a very important place in your life. And you are a bit like Howard Shore. And Howard gave me his secret of doing great music. And it's just in one word, a nap every day.
No, really?
Yes. The secret of Howard composition is the fact that he's taking a nap every day after his walk in the woods. So, and are you inspired it by nature when you are composing? Of course, by nature, not by nap, of course. But and if also if you can tell us about albums, Leaves and Trees, and Ask the River, for example.
Yes. Well, I am inspired by nature, and I feel I feel something's wrong if I'm away from nature for a long time. Mm. I mean, I like London. I like going to London, and I have a place in London, and I sort of go between here, where I am in the countryside in West Sussex, and London. But even in London, we have some very sort of big trees that the house overlooks. So I feel that there's part of nature. I think, I think it's. I think our connection to the earth as human beings is incredibly important, and I certainly feel it. And I think it's not just a connection to it; we're part of it. It's part of us. It gives to us, and we need to give back to it. So I live my life like that. In a sense, that sort of dictates my life. And I spend a lot of time in nature. I go for a walk in the woods every day as well. Yes. I don't have a nap. I like the idea of a nap.
Maybe it will change your life. I know. I will tell to Howard, okay, Rachel now is having a nap because of you. And, but of course, and Howard is living outside from New York. He's living in countries like that, and so
yeah.
You
yes.
When you are close to this, it's such an inspiration for you, and for taking time and thinking, listening.
Absolutely.
How it is. And,
yes, you can't always be pushing and trying. You've got to give your creative energy some break, and I think that's what nature gives. It's being able to walk in nature really does that. I mean, can you imagine not doing that? And instead you could be doing some emails. Well, that's not good. You need the other thing is, if you're in the midst of writing something and it's quite intense, it's really good to step away and see far afield, instead of looking at things close, but just to get some perspective. And you come back, you're fresh. You listen to what you just did before you had a break, and you think, oh, I know what's wrong with that, or oh, I know which way to go now. It's that's what works for me.
Mm-hmm. So yes, you're right. And I have my friend, maybe you know her, a great English composer, Evelyn Wallen.
Oh yeah.
And
yes.
Evelyn is living. She has a little house near the sea, in the middle of nowhere, in fact. And she's working there. She's composing, and the place is amazing. So, and my very last question.
Yes.
And so, this is a very simple question. Where do your beautiful melodies come from? Heaven, maybe, or do you think there is a kind of divine link when you find the right notes. You know, you are finding these 5 or 6 notes for beginning the melody, the music. And because I was talking about this with Francis Lay and with Lalo Schifrin, and they both told me this. They sometimes they can't explain, but the things that is coming, you know, and so I don't think the same way.
It's the same thing. I think I feel that I need to get out of the way. You know, I need to remove myself and stop, you know, because it's, you know, if you're trying to come up with inspiration for something or whatever it is, and you know, you work at it. It's when you become, you get into a state where you're given. I basically feel like I get given ideas, and I don't know where they come from, but I know that I know that I'm given them. That's not me. You know, I don't feel it's me. I don't think, oh, well done. You know, if I've come up with something, I think most composers feel like that. They think like, I don't know what happened, but suddenly I have this creative engine and I know exactly what this piece of music needs to be. And I write it all out and it's really quick. You know, you write the whole thing out really quickly. And I have the piece in its entirety.
Yes, and you can't stop.
Yeah, and you can't. Having said, yeah, so where does it come from? You know, where does music come from?
Good question.
Yeah, so it's the most ephemeral thing, and you know, it fascinates me to think where it does come from. But I mean, I do think that there is a gift that is given to people, and it's being in the right space to receive it in a way, and then to write it out, I guess.
And the environment is very important, especially in your case with your mother, who was very big fan of music, and it's very important too. Even if you have a gift, it's all the surrounding people and which makes what you are. So I have no word to say thank you more.
No, it's been really nice talking to you.
In the name of Ucmf and Pop Sinoche, and we are so happy, and now we are waiting for you in France, and we are waiting for the Little Prince.